So I'm going to ask you about the hot seat question, kind of like the really tough questions that job seekers get asked in a moment here. But first, I know just as a follow up to prepping the interview and how to come up with these stories, we don't really have like crystal balls in front of our hands and we don't really know what the interviewer is going to ask. I can tell you, I mean, there are the common ones such as, tell me more about yourself, your greatest strengths, greatest weakness, things like that we can prepare for. But what about perhaps questions that are not as commonly asked? How do we prepare for those sort of questions? And I know you brought up the power stories kind of example. Maybe I can draw from the power stories, but how do we prepare for the unexpected?
Yeah, it's great. What's helpful in these situations is to bucket the questions by question type. Because while you could be asked a ton of different questions, you're not going to be asked, there's only so many question types. So there's the introductory question, there's behavioral questions, there's case or scenario questions, there's questions about you, and there's trap questions. And so those are some, if you can know at least how to handle those types of questions, you'll be able to handle most everything that's thrown at you in an interview. And so when I think about a tough question like, why are you leaving your current job, right? It's like, oh man, that's actually a trap question. It's a trap question because it has the potential for you to go negative and get yourself into a spot where now you're trash talking the employer. And there's a lot of questions that are trap questions like that. And the common theme of a trap question is it's the potential to go negative. And so you need to have a framework in your mind on what if I'm being baited into going negative? How do I think about that? So particularly when it comes to this question, why are you leaving your current job? You want to structure it in a way that you're talk about the positive things that you're getting from this current job, but then talk about the amazing things that you're going to get with this new opportunity that you're not going to be able to get at this current job.
Yeah.
As an example, that's a way to keep it positive. That's a way to keep it focused on the job. And that's really a way to avoid that trap question, so to speak.
What is your greatest weakness? Another trap question.
It can be. It's kind of a blend of questions about you and a trap question. Let's just cover it real quick because I think there's probably a lot of people who are just interested in that. That one's even harder than what's your greatest strength because, there's two extremes to this question, right? One is you can give a kind of a pseudo I work too hard or I care too much, or, you can kind of give one of these BS answers that people don't believe and it kind of comes off as disingenuous. Or you could go the other way and give them like a really egregious weakness. That's like a deal breaker, Hey, I don't ever want to come into the office. Don't expect me, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So what you want to do in this type of circumstance is you want to highlight a reasonable weakness and then talk about the things you're doing or already have done to start to improve on that weakness. So, one example could be, I have a bias for action as a leader. And part of that bias for action makes it so I can get a little bit impatient when a lot of the team wants to really make sure we got all the details buttoned down because I want to go. And that bias for action can be really good, but at times it can cause me to maybe miss a couple details. And so I've noticed that about me. And what I've done is surrounded myself with people who are a little bit more risk averse and a little bit more into the details. And anytime I'm about to make a big decision or milestone on a project, I know who those people are. I'll give them a call and ask, hey, how does this sound? And almost every time they'll point to 2 or 3 things that make the decision better.
Yeah.
And so that's something I continue to work on and continue to try to surround myself with people to be able to handle that.
I love that. And one thing I liked about that is in hearing your response, which was brilliant, I felt like there was this ratio of how much of that response was focused on the positive. It felt like 80 to 90% of it was on the positive, such as, this is the bright side to my weakness and also the things that you're doing to improve upon the weakness. And you barely kind of focused on, the problem. And I love that. I think it just sounded nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that a lot of interviewees believe when they get asked that question is that depending on the weakness they choose, that they're going to be like eliminated from their candidacy will be eliminated or something like that. It's actually not at all what they're looking for. They're looking for hyper self-awareness. They're looking for someone who understands themselves pretty well and takes steps to improve themselves. They're not looking, he said analytics is his weakness, so yeah, he's axed or she's axed. It's not that. They're looking for someone who's self-aware. So that's what you're trying to demonstrate when you answer that question.